Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I'm here with my 5 tricks for unhauling books. So I recently did another big book unhaul or clean out. I will link that down below in case you haven't seen it yet. Basically, I just thought I would share some of the tips and tricks that I've kind of come up with or developed or continue to use as I continuously unhaul books, because I do that pretty frequently. If you guys were maybe wanting to start unhauling books more regularly or more effectively and you didn't know where to start, maybe you'll find 1 or 2 tips here that can help you out with that. My first tip is to let go of the need to own a complete set of a series. So specifically, I'm talking about series where maybe you really enjoy the first few books, but the finale was really disappointing. I feel like most, if not all of us, have series like that. There's no need to hold on to that last book just for the sake of having a complete set. Like, if you know you're never ever going to want to read that book again, or even think about how disappointing that finale was, there's really no need to keep it on your shelf. This tends to be a lot easier of a decision to make when it's like a companion series, because the books sort of feel separate. But there have been series, like I'm thinking of a couple right now, like the Children of the Lamp ones or Inkheart, just to name a couple. There have been plenty of series where I really enjoyed the first book, but the series just kind of went downhill from there. And even though I love the first one and I want to keep that book around to maybe reread it or to refer to or whatever, I know that I don't actually need to hang on to those other books. I know it's tempting to want a full set or just to like the look of having a complete series that you have read, but if you hate a book, you don't need it, even if it is in a series. That's the bottom line. My second tip is to have kind of a halfway unhaul box. So something that I've sort of discovered, like sometimes I run across books where I'm not actually sure if I want to commit to getting rid of them. Maybe I feel sort of like middle of the road about those books, or I have really mixed feelings, and for whatever reason I'm not ready to just completely get them out of the house or whatever. So normally I have a kind of a big box that I just continuously put books in that I'm going to be unhauling, because it's kind of an ongoing process for me. But sometimes if I have a big batch of books or a series or whatever where I'm still deciding, I kind of test it by putting it into that box and kind of, like, not packing it away or anything, but just keeping it out of the way enough, like, so it's not on your shelf, you don't see it every day, and then kind of waiting a couple weeks. And if I don't miss that series, if I don't think about the fact, like, that I still own it and like, oh, I need to make a decision about it, sometimes I'll even forget the books are in that box. And if that happens, I usually know that, okay, I would probably be okay with unhauling those books permanently, because I had forgotten that I even had them. My third tip is sort of related to the last one I talked about, and that is to make it an ongoing process, basically just making it as easy as possible for yourself to make these decisions. I'm a big fan of having a big unhaul, like, clean out every once in a while, where you just sit down and go through every single book on your bookshelf and really decide whether or not you want it. But I've also found that it's really effective for me personally if I don't make such a big deal out of it every time I want to unhaul a book. So like I said, I'll have kind of a box that I keep in my room or kind of around where my books are, and as I go through the month and I read a book, like, if I didn't enjoy it, it goes in the box. Like, if I suddenly decide that I'm not interested in continuing a series, that book goes in the box. Like, I just kind of have this permanent fixture of an unhaul box that I'm always going through. And just having it be like a constant process, I think, takes some of the pressure off. And I also think it means that you're less likely to second guess your decisions, because you're sort of making them in the moment. Like, you just finished a book you didn't enjoy, so you decide to get rid of it. I think that's an easier choice than sort of doing it much later when you've forgotten how much you disliked the book and you're like, well, maybe I should give it another chance. My fourth tip is to check if you can easily get the book from your library. So whatever online kind of search system your library or your library system uses, check that and see if the book that you're considering unhauling is available there. I have found that this is especially helpful with books I haven't read that I may be tempted to keep around just in case I want to read them someday. But this also goes for books that you have already read and you're just not sure if you're ever going to come back to them. So for this trick, obviously there is the benefit of knowing you're going to be able to go back to the book later. But I also find that by doing this, just knowing that I could, in the future, get a hold of this book and read it some other time often is enough to make me realize that, oh, I don't think I actually do want to read that book. Like, and I can actually take it off my TBR list as well as taking it off my bookshelf. So if you have that ability with your library, I really recommend doing that, because as I said, it makes the decision easier because you're leaving options open for you to, like, read that book in the future. It's not as much of a final decision, so I feel like you're more likely to be okay with unhauling some things that honestly you might not get around to anyway, because that's what has happened for me. And finally, my fifth and last tip is to let go of star ratings as the determining factor for your bookshelf. Now, side note, I personally am a big believer in star ratings. I know a lot of people don't use them anymore, which is fine. I find that they're really useful to help me like decide on my feelings about a book. But I think when you are unhauling books, it's really easy to talk yourself into keeping books that you don't actually need just based on the review or the rating that you gave them before. Like, I have unhauled 4-star books before. Books that I really, really enjoyed, that I would recommend, that I may even reread someday in the distant future from my library, maybe. But if I know that I'm not gonna want to pick it up again soon, or sometimes I even know that I never want to reread it. It's like so intense or so draining that I just don't want to read that book ever again. There's no reason for me to keep it around, even if it is something I read and even if it is something I really enjoyed. So even though it can be helpful to look at your shelf and be like, oh, well, I remember I gave that book 2 stars. Why is it still there? I'll unhaul that now. That obviously is a useful thing to do, but if you can kind of move away from the star ratings and think of it more as, how likely am I to want to pick up this book again? I'm a big fan of rereading, and I find that considering a book from a reread perspective when I'm going through my books to like unhaul things, I find that that is a lot more useful for me, because at the end of the day, that's how I want to curate my bookshelf. I want it to be books I'm excited about reading or books that I have loved and that I plan to read again. I, like many people, just have very limited shelf space, and it's too limited for me to hold on to books just because I liked them at one time. So those are my 5 tips and tricks for unhauling books that I have kind of developed, I guess, as I've like really focused in on how I like to get rid of books. I hope that at least one of those helped you guys. Let me know in the comments your favorite tips or tricks for unhauling books, or if you're going to try any of these out. I really hope this video was helpful. I will see you guys soon with another one, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!